Texting is no longer just messaging. It is a statement. Blue bubble versus green bubble. And the stigma, it's real.
He's a 10, but he has an Android phone. What's his new rating?
1.
This week on Tech Check, Apple versus the green bubble. Blue versus green.
They text you, green text bubble pops in. Like, what the Android? Did you know Megan was poor?
It's a phenomenon that has been around for more than a decade, almost as long as iPhones have. People getting judged or excluded just for having a green bubble. Android users, they will mock iPhone users as well.
Texting someone a green text bubble is like texting them the link to your GoFundMe page.
When someone with an iPhone texts someone without, using SMS instead of the Apple exclusive iMessage, the green bubbles show up.
She gave me her number, but then I had an Android at the time, so I was like green text.
It was giving red flags all over.
And it's missing features too, like no read receipts, no FaceTime, no 3 dots so you know the other person is typing, lower media quality, annoying group chats.
We've got a family chat group and like 20 people all have iPhones and there's the one person with the Android. It creates problems from time to time.
Yep. This has been part of Apple's strategy from the very beginning. Even its own website seemed to brag about it. iMessages are blue, so you're not. SMS texters will be green with envy. That has since been taken down as the exclusionary nature of the green versus blue bubble has come under fire. But it has worked. 87% of teenagers now own an iPhone. For the 13% that don't or can't afford to, they're ostracized or singled out.
You can't FaceTime, you can't text properly. I don't know, it's just a red flag.
Or maybe an iPhone user won't date you.
Do you think your girl would have texted you back if you had that green bubble? You know what I mean?
Hell no.
It's been called cyberbullying by experts.
I feel like an Android user is a nerd. If you don't have an iPhone, you're a nerd.
And before you say green bubble, blue bubble, who cares? This is big business, especially for Apple and especially for its services business. It is something that the tech giant has recognized and sought to preserve.
Apple executives, this came out in a court proceeding a couple years ago with that Epic Games lawsuit. They basically said, we don't want to put iMessage on Android or other platforms because that keeps people upgrading iPhones.
An email from Apple executive Craig Federighi way back in 2013 on potentially integrating iMessage with Android. I am concerned the iMessage on Android would simply serve to remove an obstacle to iPhone families giving their kids Android phones. I think we need to get Android customers using and dependent on Apple products. 3 years later, then marketing chief Phil Schiller, moving iMessage to Android will hurt us more than help us.
But will I ever go buy an Android?
Nope, I'm not gonna damn myself like that.
Even CEO Tim Cook has weighed in.
I can't send my mom certain videos or she can't send me certain videos. And so we leave
Buy your mom an iPhone.
Put simply, iMessage is a way of locking users into the Apple ecosystem, protecting its walled garden.
iMessage is such a key lock-in factor for people when you're thinking about getting a new phone. One of the reasons you're going to go from iPhone to iPhone instead of iPhone to Android is iMessage.
Messaging is a huge business for tech companies. Think about how often you use iMessage if you have an iPhone. It might even be your most used app. It has more than 1 billion users worldwide. That is a huge installed base.
They opened up a lot of the iOS 17 presentation with iMessage because that's such a sticking point that keeps people on the iPhone. It's almost like they're building their own social network.
Here's the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri.
If you look at how people share, all of the growth has been in stories and in DMs over the last 5 years or so. If you look at how teens spend their time on Instagram, they spend more time in DMs than they do in stories. Take out all the text. There are more photos and videos shared in DMs than there are shared in stories.
Messaging apps like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Gmail, at Google, these are seen as huge opportunities to add incremental revenue and products. But maybe most importantly, just keep consumers within your ecosystem. In an attempt to crack that walled garden, some apps, they have found workarounds. The latest is a startup called Beeper. Suddenly and seamlessly, everything changed. By downloading a paid app, Android users could send blue bubble messages and group chats. They automatically switched over to iMessage. Beeper's CEO told me it caught on like wildfire.
It was overwhelming. Within the first 48 hours, we had over 100,000 people download the app and start using it. It was incredible.
Just a few days later, though, Apple shut it down.
Apple saying that on Saturday it shut down third-party applications that enabled Android devices to use the iMessage service to communicate with iPhone users.
Apple said that Beeper exploited fake credentials in order to gain access to iMessage, which poses significant risks to user security and privacy.
We think that that statement is complete fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD. It's untrue. Beeper Mini actually makes communication between iPhone customers and Android users more secure.
Beeper's argument, those green SMS messages between an iPhone and an Android, they're not encrypted, meaning that they can be intercepted and read. He argues that Beeper gives you that end-to-end encryption.
So what Apple tried to do over the weekend was actually make iPhone customers have a less secure chat experience.
Even Senator Elizabeth Warren, she was tracking the battle, posting that big tech executives are protecting profits by squashing competitors. But to Apple's point, the messages, they have to pass through Beeper first. Apple can't verify that the startup will keep those texts safe.
Do we really think Bro was just gonna sit there and say, oh, they figured us out. Guess we'll just give iMessage away for free, everybody. Good job, Beeper.
Plus, Beeper's argument of more security, that might become irrelevant as Apple begins to bend to the green bubble evangelists. A change is coming.
Apple is set to adopt a technological standard next year that allows texting between iPhones and Android devices to run more smoothly.
It's called RCS, or Rich Communication Services, supposedly coming to iPhones in 2024. Think of it as a more modern SMS that gets you those features: high-quality photos and videos, better group messaging, read receipts, typing indicators, and most importantly, it is far more secure, which could undermine the whole point of Beeper.
And you know what? It is almost identical to iMessage. You have reactions, encrypted messages, you can see the little lockdown there, read receipts.
The only thing that likely won't change, green bubbles. Apple said the technology will, quote, work alongside iMessage, which will continue to be the best and most secure messaging experience for Apple users. The stigma, that might remain, but the quality of messaging, that will improve. Google adopted the technology years ago and has pressured Apple to do so too, even releasing a video that mocked Apple's messaging tech, comparing it to a pager, calling out the broken group chats and the green bubble. So while the walls aren't coming down, there could be some new openings, and regulators have been a key catalyst. RCS is just one in a number of concessions that Apple has made recently, primarily to get ahead of Europe's landmark big tech crackdown, the Digital Markets Act.
The EU is the most important story happening right now, Scott. It's this designation that the European government gave under this new law, the Digital Markets Act, going into effect next year.
Following an EU mandate, Apple in September released its first iPhones with USB-C charging ports, replacing their proprietary Lightning adapters.
The EU put out a regulation saying they have to start using standard chargers.
Reports that Apple is now offering to share access to its tap-and-go mobile payment system with rivals, also in an attempt to settle EU antitrust charges and avoid a fine.
We need to be paying more attention to the Digital Markets Act and its impact across Silicon Valley and technology.
The EU's new rules, they have even threatened Apple's prized App Store.
It goes after Apple's, high margin businesses. The App Store is at risk here.
In what would be a massive shift for the company, Bloomberg reporting that Apple is planning to let users install third-party app stores on their iPhones. All signs that Apple has been slowly breaking down its walled garden. Green versus blue, that might be next.